Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Radio Seer on 1575 AM and also on medium wave MW. You can also listen to us by downloading our free apps or by visiting our website. That's www.radioseerah.com. Yes, you're listening to the Merciful Prophet Show with myself, Maulana Huzaifa, and today we will inshallah ta'ala be going over some important advices, inshallah ta'ala. Our Slav sacrificed a lot for the sake of attaining knowledge. They encountered many hardships, but they continued their mission religiously. They considered the madrasa their home and the paper of the book their shroud. All their lives were dedicated to getting and imparting knowledge. That is why Hazrat Sufyan Thawri rahmatullah alayhi used to say that if he is sincere, no one can be better than him. So blessed are these people that even Allah's angels stop in their flight in their honor. That is why it is said that when Allah is pleased with an ordinary believer, He builds a palace for him in paradise. But when He is pleased with a student or an alim, He populates for him a city in paradise. Just as there are nawabs in this world who have their own areas, similarly if Allah is pleased with an alim, He will populate for him a city in paradise. He will have his own estate. That is why it was said, من كان في طلب العلم كانت الجنة في طلبه. The one who is in search of knowledge, paradise is in search for him. It is Allah's great favor that accepts His servants as seekers of religious knowledge. You people are very fortunate. You are the chosen people of Allah, and this is confirmed by the Quran. ثُمَّ أَوْرَثْنَا الْكِتَابَ الَّذِي نَصْطَفَيْنَا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا. Thereafter we have made our chosen servants inherit the book. They were my chosen, my beloved servants. The one who inherits the book is the beloved of Allah. What a great mercy it is of Allah that He accepted our lives for the purpose of the knowledge of this book. We should acknowledge this favor of Allah and acquire knowledge of the book diligently and sincerely. The daughters of Imam Malik and the level of knowledge. Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi says, once during the days of Hajj, I was in the bazaar of Mina. When after having performed Jamarat, I met an old man. When he saw me, he said, for the sake of Allah, accept my invitation for food. I accepted his invitation, and he was so simple, he offered me whatever he had. He took out a piece of bread and offered me to eat. I started eating, and he kept watching me, and said, it seems you are from the Quraysh. I said, yes, but how do you know? He said, Qurayshis do not bother much when inviting for food, and also not when accepting the invitations. Then, as our conversation carried on, I came to know that he has come from Medina. So I asked him about Imam Malik, and he told me a few things about him. When he observed that I was very interested in this discussion, he said that if you want to go to Medina, then we have one extra Ghaki camel. We will give it to you and you will reach Medina. I was already willing to go, so I accepted the offer. The caravan took 16 days to get to Medina, and in the process I was able to finish Quran 16 times. These days people go for Hajj pilgrimage, spend 10 days in Medina, and yet do not even finish a single Quran. When our elders used to go for Hajj, hundreds used to embrace Islam saying Shahada on their hands. Today people come back from Hajj, yet they do not become true Muslims and engage in a sinful life even after their return. Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi finished Quran 16 times in 16 days of travel. He says, when we reached Masjid al-Nabawi, after prayers, I saw a tall man wearing a lone clothed and a sheet. He sat on an elevated place and people sat around him. I knew that this was Imam Malik. In those days, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi was giving dictation of a hadith from Muwatta Imam. Muwatta Imam. I picked up a blade of grass and thought of it as my pen and my palm as my notebook. I put my tongue on the blade of grass as if I'm applying ink to it and started writing on my palm. The students were writing on the paper sheets, and so in order to relate to them, I was writing on my palm. Meanwhile, Imam Malik noticed me. He had dictated 127 hadith in that gathering. When it was time for the next prayer, the session was closed and people went away. Imam Malik rahmatullah says, Imam Shafi says, when Imam Malik saw me, he called me and said, You seem like a stranger. I said, Yes, I have come from Makkah Mukarramah. He said, What are you doing on your palm? I replied, I was writing a hadith. He said, Show me. When I showed it to him, there was nothing written on my palm. He said, There is nothing written here. I said, Sheikh, I neither had a pen nor paper. I was only trying to act like the other students, and I was writing with a splint of wood on my palm. Imam Malik did not like this and said, This is disrespect to hadith that you wrote like this. I said, Sheikh, I was only trying to gain visible likeness by moving the splint of wood on my hand. In reality, I was writing the hadith on my heart. Imam Malik said, If you are writing on your heart, then narrate me a few of the hadith out of them to prove your claim. I narrated to him all hadith from 1 to 127 in same order with the chain of narrators. Imam Malik was extremely pleased. He said, O young man, I invite you to be my guest. What does blind man want? 2 eyes. I readily accepted the offer. Imam Malik went to his home. He had daughters who were alima, lady scholars, and they had memorized the hadith and the Quran. They were very righteous women, and it has been recorded in books that they were so knowledgeable that when Imam Malik used to teach hadith to his students in Masjid Nabawi, they would also attend behind the parda. And when a student would make a mistake in reciting hadith, they would beat of wood against a wood, and Imam Malik would understand that the student has made a mistake. He informed at home that today an alim is going to visit us. He is very wise and keen to learn. They especially prepared food for him, prepared his bed, placed a prayer mat, arranged for water in a pitcher. Imam Shafi had his food and went to bed. In the morning he went to the mosque along with Imam Malik and returned after offering ishraq. On the return, Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi said, My daughters have observed something questionable and I was to ask you about it. In those times, people used to be quiet, straightforward. He said, They are saying that, Father, you said he is a very righteous person, but we have doubts about it. Firstly, the food we cooked would have been sufficient for many people. MashaAllah, this only guest ate too much to his fill, that the pots came back so clean that we did not need to wash them. Today, people say that if you make your child an alim scholar, from where will he get his bread? Have you ever heard that a practicing alim scholar or a practicing hafiz died of hunger and thirst? You won't find a single example. So, we have examples like Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi. So, to continue, Alhamdulillah, Allah provides ample provisions, but people are afraid that they will not get rizq. They will get rizq from where our Lord used to give it to his prophets. So one thing he asked Imam Shafi was if he finished all the food. Secondly, they asked was that the prayer mat that was laid down and the water pot, both things seemed to be untouched in the morning. The Tahajjud prayer was also not offered, and there is no arrangement for ablution in the mosque. People perform ablution at home. He went with he went with you without ablution, which makes us wonder how he has offered prayers. Imam Shafi said, Sheikh, actually, when I had the food, there was so much noor in it that on eating every morsel, I felt the noor filling my chest. I thought that perhaps I will not get food so halal in my life again, so I should make it a part of my body. And therefore I made all the food a part of my body. Allahu Akbar. He says, then I lied down, but due to excessive light, I was unable to sleep, so I kept thinking about a hadith. One hadith remained in my mind, in which the Prophet ﷺ said to a little boy whose bird had died. So I kept pondering over these few words and deduced from them 40 issues of fiqh from Abu Umair. What pleasing should be, how should children be addressed, how to communicate in order to cheer up someone. From only these few words, he deduced 40 masail of fiqh. Then he said, since I was with wudu, I offered Fajr prayer with the same wudu. These were our scholars. So the first step is to acquire knowledge. The second step is to act upon it. But that is not all. Another thing required is to act with sincerity. Prophet prescriptions for getting from stress and worries. Sayyidina Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, whoever recites these words 7 times in the morning and in evening, Allah will be sufficient for him against all stress and worries, whether he says them sincerely or not. Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa wa alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa hu alayhi tawakkaltu wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. Allah is sufficient for me, none has the right to be worshipped but in him I put my trust, and he is the Lord of the mighty throne. Prophetic prescription for protection against the hardship of Judgment Day. According to hadith of Ibn Abi Hatim, the Prophet ﷺ said to Sayyidina Bashir Ghafari radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what will you do when people will stand before the Lord of the worlds for 100 years? There will neither be any disclosure from the heaven, nor will any order be passed. Sayyidina Bashir radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, only Allah is the helper. The Prophet said, listen, when you go to bed, seek Allah's refuge from the hardship and the reckoning of the Day of Judgment. According to Sunan Abu Dawood, the Prophet used to seek refuge. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu has narrated that for 40 years, people will remain standing with raised heads. No one will say a word. Sayyidina Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that they will remain standing for 100 years. As recorded in Abu Dawood, Nasai ibn Majah, when the Prophet ﷺ would get up to begin tahajjud prayers, he would say, Allahu Akbar 10 times, Alhamdulillah 10 times, Astaghfirullah 10 times. Then he would say, Allahumma gfirli wahdini warzuqni wa'afini. O Allah, forgive me and guide me and grant me sustenance and well-being. Then he would seek refuge from the hardships of Qiyamah. Yes, these are some of the devices which we should keep in mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq, the ability to practice on what we have just read and heard today. Yes, you're listening to Radio Seerah on 1575. Also streaming live on www.radioseerah.com. Yes, we'll be back inshallah ta'ala after a short break. Stay tuned and keep listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.